Alrighty, I'm going to be showing you how to do a simple Garfield edit today. I'm doing a little LM in the background. I'll be linking to his channel in case you enjoy what you're hearing. Going through Go Comics, unfortunately you can't right click and save, so we have to work around. So I'm just going to do an alt print screen. Going on pulling up Photoshop here. With it on the clipboard, if I just go through File, New, it'll automatically size the window to what I need. Control V to slap that down. And we can start our crop, just select that crop button, a couple of enters, and it gets us pretty close to what we need. As you can see, it's not perfectly squared off, but I can, close enough. So autofill is your best friend. So I can select Garfield here. This is a pretty simple one. There's no weird background or anything. So I'm just going to do this. I'll hold Alt to deselect just to bring in the edges a little bit. I don't want to hand draw here because I'm feeling pretty lazy, honestly. Shift F5, oops, typo. Shift F5, bring up the fill option. Content aware is what I usually go for. Bam, look at that, no cap. Got a little smudge here. So I'm going to do blur, just a small strength, huge brush so I can hold Alt, right click, and drag to make it bigger or smaller. So I'm just going to blur that. Look at that, nobody's any the wiser. Nothing to do in the second panel. This one is quite a bit bigger. Now, generally I don't like to just use a brush, because the backgrounds oftentimes are fairly damaged, but in this case it's a pretty solid tan. So, I can probably get away. I'm just holding Alt and scrolling in and out for the rapid zooming. And again, just Alt and click and drag to deselect parts of this box. Again, a lot of times I'll hand draw it, and I'll probably mess with that here a little bit. But for right now, for the bulk of this, I can get away with just doing happy boxes. Add that back in. One of my major things is I oftentimes forget what I'm removing and what I'm not. So here I actually want to hand draw a little bit, so I'll take my lasso, or my magnetic lasso, and holding Alt to remove it. I'm just gonna go through the middle of the black line here. And then out in here, and again I'm removing selection. So you can't forget that. For autofill, you want to leave as much of what you want in the finished product as possible. Because the more you leave, that's the less work you have to do later. Add that in as something I want to fill out. Don't want to do his hair, because hand drawing in a hair is hard to do, believably. Well, let's see what autofill does. It's going to be terrible, I'm sure. Look at that. So I did that once, and that got a lot of it for me. It's just a quick removal. Just kind of guessing at what it did this time, since my copy of Photoshop doesn't like me. Getting sloppy, but I'm trying to do this a little bit faster than usual. you start to do a selection that's a mistake, you can, at least with the magnetic brush or a magnetic lasso, you can just hit escape and it will stop the one that you're doing. If you ever really mess up a selection, you can just hit reselect. That is something that I do quite a bit. And this might be about as good as I'm gonna get. So, selecting the brush, I can hold Alt, get the eyedropper to get my background color, since, again, this is a pretty good background. It didn't get messed up, it doesn't have little dots all over it. Again, Alt, holding right click, dragging left and right. So, hello. I'm gonna paint over what I can here, pretty close to him. Before we go zooming in and messing around. Control D to deselect. Alt scroll. Yeah, Jon's back's pretty good. Brushes always have a little bit of fuzziness to them, that's why I use them instead of pencils. If you want really fuzzy, you can go with the really fuzzy brush. But even the solid looking one has some fuzziness. So, one of the nice things about the brush is you want to make sure you use short clicks. One of the things I'm bad about is using long clicks. So if I'm sitting here and I'm brushing and I'm brushing and I'm brushing and then I go, oops, if I undo it, I've just lost all that progress. So you want to try to do bursts of no more than about a second at a time. Otherwise you're gonna do what I do all the time and end up with a real frustrating loss. Which really stinks, because usually whenever you're doing it long like that, you've made some good progress. Now here, I don't know if that hair is supposed to be there. I think it is. I'm going to zoom out, going to look at the rest, compare it to his other head here. One thing you can do is steal his head from somewhere else. Let's see how that works right quick. It might work, it might not. I don't think it's going to work in this case, because usually rotating his head isn't going to be a good idea, especially with the line work being different in his, I don't know, his temple here or whatever it is. But just for grins, we'll try that out. Control C, Control V, drag that over, and Control T to do a free transform. Now, one thing we can do is take that layer and lower the opacity so we can see what we're doing with it. That way I can transform it to exactly where I want. And you can hold control and click and drag on the corners to fine tune it a little bit. Enter to finish that. Actually, you know what? That's not bad. I'm gonna go with that, because I'm tired of hand drawing. I'm feeling pretty lazy. And since that layer is up there, I can just reselect this bottom layer and... Oop, shoot, actually, no. I thought I covered this part up, but I don't. Alright, I'll still have to be careful about hand drawing here. See, I completely forgot what I was doing. Now we've got some brown outside his head here, so this isn't gonna look quite right. So I'm going to have to hand draw in this background color, and now I'm going to have to add some black in. As you see, the black doesn't look quite right, even if I go and do background again, it's too sharp. So I'm going to take my blur tool, which is the same as the smudge button here, and get that nice and small, and you don't want to blur hard, usually. So I'm just 21 strength. See, that was too rough. So I'm going to go with smaller tool. Just a little touch. Look at that. Still a little bit too solid. Now it looks almost believable. I'm gonna go back over to smudge. I'm gonna lower the strength on the smudge. Just drag it out a little bit. I'm gonna scooch it back and forth. It's like smudging a pencil on a piece of paper. There you go. I mean, unless somebody really zooms in and gets super critical, they're not going to know what happened here. This is bugging me, it's the wrong color. I don't like that. I'm gonna turn my smudge back up a little bit. Smudge that nice background color in there. Oh, this is my problem. Let me flatten this, merge this down. That got inherited from another... got inherited from somewhere else. So now everything over here looks pretty good. You can't tell that that's not the back of his head. I'm gonna just clean up this bubble. Bubbles oftentimes, a surprising amount of the time, make their own gravy. Which surprises me. Let's try blurring this. There we go. Sit out a little bit. This is fine. He's a little inconsistent with how his bubble shapes are. So that's fine. Yeah, I think that's pretty close to the original. So we've got Garfield totally out of here. Edges of our frames, well, honestly that looks like crap, but that matches the original. So what are you gonna do? So one of the things is keeping the art consistent. One thing I do is I always keep it at 72 DPI, which is the native resolution of my monitor, because if I crank it up, then it gets too pixelated. It's hard to make it look believable. There's probably some critics out there that don't like that, but they can deal with it. Need to get Garfield out of here, though. Garfield is a figment of this unhealthy person's imagination, and if we're going to help him get better, we need to help cure him of his delusions. Get that cat out of here. Whatever. Fill in the blank. He's talking to himself. I don't feel like having him talk to himself, so let's change up the text a little bit. We're gonna need that apostrophe. Let's get rid of this wee nonsense though. I don't like that. I'm just going in, clicking delete. Since I've got a white background here, I can get away with delete. If you've got it flattened out, let me flatten the image here right quick, and hit delete, it will actually take you to the fill. So if you don't like hitting Shift F5 and you like just working off background, sometimes I do, then you can use that as a shortcut. Alright, so I stole an I, and if you're working with a lot of text, you can just double click the name of your layer and give it a name. I mean, I'm doing 2 letters here, so that's not a big deal. And if you ever run into a... like, I almost always find the letters that I need, and I'll adjust what I'm looking for, or what I'm captioning in it based on the letters that are available in the comic, because I'm a nerd. But, you can... his lettering's real consistent. Like, even in size. So you can steal that from other comics. That looks about right. I stole, I got the line by clicking and dragging off the ruler. If you want the line to go away, you can just select the move tool and drag it back into the ruler. And for moving it, I have nothing selected and I just click the layer, have this, and I'm hitting up, down, left, right to do it 1 pixel at a time. You can also select just part of it and do that, which is handy. I'm gonna scoot that eye back over. I just need to get rid of this line because stuff will snap to the lines, which can be a problem. And I don't need to snap anymore. I'm gonna have to do a little hand cleaning on here. Oops, wrong layer. So I'm just gonna bring these in a little bit so it looks like he's saying the sentence in the speech bubble, and not like some maniac came along and messed with the art. So that doesn't help anything. I'm just holding shift to add stuff to the selections. Okay, that looks good enough. Let's bust out a paintbrush. Do a little bit of white there. Smudge this R a little bit. There we go, and just drag it out. Smudge this one. Smudge this around. Smudging and blurring lets you get away with so much. I didn't even do anything to that, so I'm gonna leave that alone. Yeah, this is fine. And one thing I notice a lot in some of these edits is there will be some inconsistency in the borders or the edges of the tables or whatever. And that's fine, because sometimes whenever you do a copy and paste from another ledge over, you know, that's fine. You know, you can't get it perfect. But the wonders that you can get just by blurring the heck out of something, like if you hold shift while you go left and right, it will stay exactly on a horizontal. And well, like this thing got messed up, but you can't even tell that it's a pixel off anymore. But yep, that's out. So hopefully that yeah. Anyway, I might do another one or two of these. Have a good day.